Right, so this sticks through the main body into the top sort of head fairing thing, so there isn't much room for an air filter. Now I can put one of those little round hot rod type filters on, but they're actually quite restrictive. I'll give you a link to a video about that at the bottom, so I could leave it open, but then I might get it full of sand. I could put something on it like that, faces backwards. You get less sanding because you're sort of sucking from behind. You can get some ultra low profile sort of things, even on regular cars, which have quite a sharp turn in them. So basically you want the smallest angle of turn that'll just fit under my head fairing, and basically it works out at that. And because it needs to be slightly more than a 90-degree bend, because the head fairing doesn't go back flat, it goes back sort of downwards at an angle. So that means I can put a long sort of filter on here of some sort, like a tube shaped thing made of foam or I don't know what yet. So how am I going to fix this to this? I've got this stainless tube which is an exact fit. So what I've done, I just marked it out with electrical tape as my cutting mark and cut it with a hacksaw. See, that will exactly fit on there. So what I'm thinking is to weld this to this. So what I did here was I took that ring that I cut and I cut a little piece out, little piece out, little piece out until it exactly gripped the carb quite tightly. And then another ambulance, and then I welded it to this, not on the carb, but I did it in such a way that I only held this in the clamp. I didn't hold this in the clamp, so it didn't distort or go oval. So as you can see, it is a tight fit. He's unable to get it up. There, it's a tight fit, which is kind of what I want. And then after I'd welded it, I cut slot to give it a tiny bit of give, bearing in mind this is stainless, so it's not very soft and it's not very springy, and my weld isn't too bad, because remember I was welding to an oval, because I cut this so that comes down once it's on. So that means I can put a clamp around there. It's already a tight fit. Once I put a clamp around there, it should be really tight. There should be no argument about it coming off. So at some point I need to do a quick check, put the body back on, just double check that it's not hitting it, and then as long as that's the case, then I'm good to find some kind of sausage shaped filter to go on there, and it'll have a reasonably clean airflow in. Right, well I had to do some radical surgery on this that I made earlier. It was basically, basically the top of this cleared the top of the fairing by a few millimetres, but of course once you put this filter on that I bought, it was completely offset. So I think now if I do it like that, it might just fit. This filter is the narrowest for its length diameter tube filter I could find. I think it's from a tractor or something like a Land Rover or a Land Rover Defender or something. But you can see I cut a bit of height out of the previous one to just get it down by another centimetre or so. So the proof of the pudding is to put the fairing on and see if it hits the top of this or not. So see what you think. I'll just show you what I'm doing here. Basically I've got to make a ring that is like a tight fit in the end of the filter here, there. So what I've done is I've got a bit of tubing that's the nearest size, which happens to be stainless steel. So it's this one, which I had lying around, I've used for other things. Then I cut a slot in the side of it about 2 millimeters wide, brought it together and welded it, and that now is exact sort of fairly tight fit. And then the next problem I've got, here's my carburetor 90-degree adapter. I can't just weld it on like that, because then the filter hits the top of this, the fairing. It's got to be offset a bit, so it's got to be like more like that, you see. So in order to not have a kind of too much of a step effect, I've had to flare out one side of this. And because it's stainless, it isn't as easy to just hammer form it and stretch it. So what I've done is, it's not pretty, but I've cut some slots there, bent them out, and then all the little cracks and gaps I can weld up. But basically it'll be like that, you see. And then this gap here will have to be filled with a piece of metal. Right, so I've just tacked that on. Bit lumpy, not really pretty. See how it goes. So we'll do another test fit on the car now. So now I've fashioned that from a piece of sheet steel, which is a pretty boring thing to do by hand, and I need to weld that kind of in there now. So here it is cleaned up, you can see. It's not too bad. So I'm going to have to get a burr in a Dremel and just tidy up this edge here. That was the flat plate that I welded in, and there's another piece on the inside. Get the light on it, maybe not. Just smooth it off so that the airflow has got a sporting chance of coming in there and going down without too many sharp edges and corners and things to go around. Well, that looks like it should work. I tell you what it reminds me of is one of those Colombian drug submarines, which have the exhaust that comes out the top and then it runs along the deck to try and blend the exhaust into the seawater. I don't know why it made me think of that, but yeah. Okay, so the next thing is to put the fairing on and see if it clears it or not. Obviously I'm going to have to make a plug to go in this end as well. Well, I've got some power tools here. I've got a Dremel with a burr. One of these burrs in the end. You can get these little sets of metal burrs. I need to basically gas flow this, so I need to deburr this edge, and there's another one deeper inside. And the other thing I've also got is one of these mini bandsaws, handheld bands. Sorry, power filer belt sander. Sorry, yeah, handheld, which I use for woodwork kind of mainly, but it's handy for certain things. So I'm going to just take off the lumpiness and the bumps and things in there, and smooth it out inside if I can. Right, well that's better. You can see I've smoothified that a bit. I mean, there's still an edge, but it blends better and doesn't stick up. And and there was a lip sticking up further in, which is now almost gone. So that's about the best I can do to that in terms of airflow versus getting it to fit into the space available.